friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christy, if you don't already know, and today I want to talk about testimonies, and specifically the hypocrisy in how Christians often treat our testimonies when we are in the church and we believe in Jesus and we agree with them, versus how they treat our testimonies once we leave the faith for reason and rationality and a more authentic life, and how our testimonies kind of become weaponized against us. Because I see it all the time in these debates between Christians and ex-Christians. There's a lot of pointing fingers, there's a lot of accusations, and there's a lot of dismissal of our journeys and our truth. See, I was saved in the Southern Baptist Church when I was about 5 years old. I said the prayer with my parents, I got baptized to church, I did the thing, but I had a lot of anxiety as a kid. And I was also raised in a church where the pastor was always reminding us that we might not actually be saved and think that we are. He was always saying to check yourself to make sure that you are truly of the faith, that there will be people at the end of their lives who think that they're going to heaven and Jesus will say, I never knew you, depart from me. And that was very scary to me as a kid. And that message really kind of got embedded into my head. So I remember being a very young child and going to sleep at night and praying and begging God, please save me, please save me. I remember there were many nights that I would fall asleep terrified that I would die and wake up in hell. And so when I was around 14 years old, I went to a church camp with my youth group, and there were tons of opportunities to dedicate your life to Jesus there. And that's what I did during a worship service. I raised my hands, I said the prayer, I was crying, it was very emotional, and I genuinely prayed to Jesus and I said, I want to dedicate my life to you. Please ensure my salvation and I will do whatever you ask. And that's what I did. I took it upon myself as a teenager to really dedicate my life to Jesus and to live apart from the world, as they would say. I didn't really care if my friends called me a Jesus freak. I would still talk about it anyway. I was very involved in my youth group and my church. I would spend my babysitting money going to the Christian bookstore and purchasing all of the study guides and the expensive commentaries so that I could really dive into this newfound faith. I would go on local mission trips with my youth group. I went on an international mission trip. I really just wanted to live my life for Jesus. I was even asked by multiple churches to share my testimony in front of the congregation. I was like the golden child of my family. They all supported me in my mission to be a shining light for God. And when I was 17, I was going to this church that would do these breakthrough weekends where it was basically like a weekend-long revival for Christians to kind of deepen their relationship with one another and with God. And at the very beginning of this retreat, they walked around and handed out envelopes to everyone in attendance. And within those envelopes were dozens of letters from friends, family, church members, encouraging you and kind of praising you for your dedication. And I kept all of these letters. And I read them from time to time, but they pretty much stay locked up in a box. I had to kind of dig them out for this video. But I want to take just a couple of minutes to read a couple of snippets from some of these letters because I think it will be helpful in the point that I'm trying to make here. One of them says, I see an ambitious, bold, and determined young lady who wants to serve God in every aspect that she can. I commend you on the way you study God's word. You dig so deep and read so much. Don't ever stop. I admire your boldness and ability to communicate Christ to the unsaved. Another says, I am so happy you came to know Jesus at such a young age, and you have a personal relationship with him that matches no other that I have seen in a young woman your age. You amaze me with your knowledge and constant search of the scriptures. You always dig a little deeper. You are walking proof that God's plan is always remarkable. You have blessed me in ways, one being by your knowledge of God's word and another by the encouragement you've given me that makes me want to grow stronger in the Lord. Your passion and boldness for God is truly an inspiration. I am more and more convinced each day that God is using you and going to use you in powerful, life-changing ways. These were the closest people in my life. These were the people that I respected the most. These were close family members and close friends. And as you can see, they had a very high opinion of me and my Christian journey because they saw me live it out firsthand. They experienced my transformation. They experienced how passionate I was for the faith. But attitudes have changed since I left Christianity. The attitudes of almost every single person who wrote all of these letters has changed since I left Christianity. The same people who once saw me as this bright, shining light, who admired me, who saw me as a role model and an inspiration, no longer feel as though I am worthy of their admiration or support. Some of them, if not all of them, have convinced themselves that I was never really a Christian to begin with, that maybe I was never even truly saved. And this attitude reflects so many of the Christians in my comments who don't really know my story and just assume that because I walked away, I was never really saved in the first place. I never was genuine in my relationship with God, and I never really had a relationship with God. And they do this because of one little Bible passage that states, "They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us." 1 John 2:19. And this is what Christians so often do. They disregard reality. They disregard their senses. They disregard the experiences that they've had and the experiences of others in favor of their own bias or in favor of whatever their book says. They are so convinced that what they read in their Bible is truer than the reality that they live in. And so they have to deny the undeniable, and they have to convince themselves that what's true isn't true. The people who wrote these letters admitted to being inspired by me. They admitted they were learning from me. And these were grown adults, and I was a 17-year-old girl. It's a lot of responsibility to place on a 17-year-old girl, but they did it because they truly believed in me and what I was doing. They believed that I was saved. But then I left, and I started sharing my testimony of leaving the faith. And suddenly, my testimony was no longer trustworthy. All of a sudden, I went from being this kind, caring, passionate individual that they admired to a heathen, an apostate, a sinner, someone who just wanted to sin and live a terrible lifestyle apart from God. Someone who was probably never saved in the first place. I realized that their love for me was not rooted in who I was as an individual person, that the traits they claimed to love and admire about me, my passion, my boldness, my ability to dig deeper, that these traits were no longer to be admired now that I was gone. They didn't admire these traits. They found them offensive, actually. Notice how when you are in the church, Christians tell you to be bold, to be passionate, to go out into the world and to share what you believe. They say you have to stand up for what you believe in, even if the world doesn't like it. But as soon as you walk away and you no longer believe, your boldness, your passion, your ability to stand up for what you believe in is weaponized against you. Now they hate it. They want you to be quiet. They don't want you to stand up for what you believe in if it doesn't align with how they feel or what they believe. When I left the church, I didn't lose the traits that made me me. I didn't lose my boldness. I didn't lose my passion. I didn't lose my drive and my eagerness for truth and authenticity. I didn't stop digging deeper, trying to find truth, trying to find ways to be more loving and compassionate. I stayed true to my core traits, my true identity. But those who once praised that about me now hate that about me. It is so hard to lose the love and respect of your entire family or everyone you went to church with, your whole community. All you want to do is live your most authentic life. All you want to do is follow your logic, follow your heart. And all of those people turn on you once you start doing that. And it makes you realize that they never really loved you for who you are. They loved a construct of you, something they built up in their minds that represents everything they believe and they stand for. And once you no longer align with that, they'll disregard you. They'll dismiss everything that you have to say and everything you have to think. They loved who they created you to be. And once you no longer fit within that mold, they're quick to disregard you. I know that there are a lot of people out there who watch my videos who have been through the exact same thing. They have experienced the loss of respect and love and support from the very people that used to love and support them when they were in church when they believed. And if that's you, I just really want to reach out to you right now and let you know that their opinion of you, that what they think of you, does not determine who you are or what your story is. It does not determine the truth of your testimony. We know how hard we tried. We know how devoted we were. We know that we were probably more devoted than all of those people who now disregard our stories. We tried so hard to do the right thing. And when we walked away, all of those people started pointing their fingers at us and telling us we never really tried at all. To have our stories dismissed and twisted and disregarded in such a manner, especially by people that we once loved and respected, can be such a blow to the system. It can be very, very devastating. And that's a really hard thing to get over. Their opinions do not determine our stories. Their opinions don't change how hard we tried. And their refusal to live in reality, their decision to utilize cognitive dissonance to maintain their faith, to maintain their beliefs, rather than actually listening to us, to hearing us out and empathizing with us, that doesn't change anything about us and our stories. And it doesn't say anything about us, and it says everything about them. Nobody knows your story like you do. And the people that have to deny and dismiss your story in favor of their own bias are just sitting in their cognitive dissonance. They have to sit there with it. They have to really sit with this deep understanding that something is amiss and what they once knew to be true might not be true, and that makes them uncomfortable. They see that you were once incredibly devoted, and if it can happen to you, if you can walk away from the faith, maybe they can too. And that is very, very uncomfortable for people who want to live in the certainty, who don't want to step in the unknown, who don't want to be reasonable and rational. They just want to be right, and they want to be comfortable. I think what is so admirable about people who have walked away to live their most authentic lives is that they have done the most uncomfortable thing that many people can do, which is recognize that everything you once believed is wrong, and now you have to just kind of sit in the unknown, and you have to just kind of step out into this place that they all told you would destroy you, would make everything worse, would be the worst possible decision you could make. And you have to do that for yourself. And that is scary, especially when you've been brainwashed to believe that you could go to hell for all of eternity for doing it. They don't want to do that. They don't want to risk that for themselves, and that's okay. But if you left, there was a reason you left, and it's probably a very good reason. And to be honest with you, every reason is a good reason. Any reason that you choose to walk away from a religion is a good reason. If you walked away because the religion didn't feel right, that's okay. If you walked away because it just didn't make sense, okay. If you walked away because you just don't like the church, fine. All of those are valid reasons, because we are all individual human beings with choice, and we have the ability to walk through life and make our choices for ourselves. We know ourselves better than anyone else does. And so whatever reason you have for walking away is perfectly valid. You don't have to feel as though you have to give the perfect reason for having walked away. And you don't have to feel as though just because other people dismiss your story, or other people think that you were never really saved, or you never really knew God, or you didn't try hard enough, or my favorite, you just want to sin. Just because they say those things doesn't make it true. And it does not have to impact your ability to keep walking forward, to keep moving forward in your most authentic life. It is not your fault that they can't handle it. And it reminds me of the song by Gracie Abrams where she says, "It's not my fault you can't sit with a hard thing," because this is a very hard thing for you and for them. There is a severing of relationships often when we walk away from the faith, and that is a hard thing to sit with. Some people can't sit with it, and so they pull out every stop. They pull out the fear, they pull out the guilt, they pull out the manipulation. They will do whatever it takes. They will employ their cognitive dissonance just so they don't have to be wrong. And I understand that. And you should understand that too, because we were all once there, right? We were all once in a place where the thought of walking away scared us. Why would anybody want to walk away? Why would anybody risk that? Well, we did. And we found something on the other side that was worth staying on the other side for. Keep walking toward it. Keep living your most authentic life. Do not allow your own testimony to be weaponized against you. Do not allow them to dismiss your boldness and your passion and your ability to think critically and your ability to dig deeper and to keep seeking truth or keep seeking authenticity. And that's what I wanted to share today, because I see it so often. I have it in my comments all of the time. I'm sure you see it from your friends, your family. Maybe you have people commenting it back to you. If you're getting into discussions with Christians, there will always be someone who wants to deny your story. And a lot of times the people that deny your story are the very people who lived through it, who saw it. So keep that in mind as you walk forward. Remember that when they utilize this cognitive dissonance, when they are refusing to acknowledge your story, it has nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with them. And that is something they have to sit with. That is a hard thing they have to sit with. And if they can't, it's not your fault. So I really hope this was encouraging for those who are going through it, for those who have been through it. And I hope that for the many Christians who do watch my content, you can take a moment to let this soak in. You can take a moment to empathize with the position of someone who tried as hard as they could and realized it just wasn't for them, for whatever reason. And in the same way, other religions, other spiritualities, or no religion wasn't for you. It doesn't feel authentic to you. Maybe you're a Christian and you think, I could never be an atheist. That wouldn't be authentic to how I feel in my relationship with God. If you can understand what that feels like, then you can also understand what it feels like for the person who walked away, because all they wanted to do was live authentically. If you were to show compassion and empathy and understanding for our stories, rather than immediately jumping to dismiss them, you might actually get further than you realize. You might be able to reconnect with the people in your life that walked away that might not be talking to you anymore because of your dismissal of their stories. Maybe you can find a way to find middle ground. And that's a lot of times my goal here, is to just find middle ground, to be able to understand each other's perspective. And I understand the Christian perspective because I was once there. I know where they're coming from. And if they are happy in their Christian walk, I want them to continue in that, because I want every individual to live their most authentic life, no matter what it is, with the exception of the obvious Christian pushback when people are like, well, what if you want to be a murderer and that's authentic to you? Obviously, that's not what I mean. And I think that's that goes without saying. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day, and I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.